You think you know betrayal? You think you've seen chaos? What went down on Monday Night Raw wasn't just an attack, it was a calculated execution orchestrated by the most dangerous mind in professional wrestling history. And before we go any further, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell because you do not want to miss what's coming next on Hardcore Highlights. Seth Rollins stood in that ring, microphone in hand, probably thinking about his next championship opportunity, his next main event moment. He had no idea that above him, behind him, in the shadows of the arena, Paul Heyman was pulling strings that would change everything. Two absolute monsters, Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed, were waiting like predators watching wounded prey. And when they struck, they didn't just attack Seth Rollins. They tried to end his career. Let's rewind for a second because this wasn't random. Nothing Paul Heyman does is random. This man has been the special counsel to Roman Reigns for years, helping build the most dominant championship reign in modern WWE history. He's the genius behind Brock Lesnar's most devastating moments. He gave CM Punk the platform to become the voice of the voiceless. And now he's weaponized two of the most physically imposing, terrifyingly athletic specimens on the entire roster, and he's pointed them directly at the architect of the Shield. But why Seth? Why now? Think about it. Seth Rollins has been WWE's Iron Man. He's the guy who shows up every single week, puts his body on the line, delivers classic after classic, and never backs down from anyone. He's feuded with Roman. He's battled Brock. He stood toe-to-toe with every monster the company has thrown at him. Seth Rollins represents everything that stands in the way of complete dominance. And Paul Heyman? He doesn't just want dominance. He wants annihilation. He wants total control. And to get that, he needs to remove the obstacles, one by one, piece by piece, vertebrae by vertebrae. The footage doesn't lie. Bron Breakker, second-generation superstar, son of Rick Steiner, nephew of Scott Steiner, is a genetic freak in his own right. The power, the speed, the intensity in his eyes when he locks onto a target. This isn't some green rookie trying to make a name. This is a highly trained, highly motivated, highly dangerous athlete who's been waiting for his moment to explode onto the main event scene. And what better way to announce your arrival than by destroying one of the biggest names in the business? Then there's Bronson Reed. 270 pounds of Samoan fury crashing down from the top rope like a natural disaster. When Reed hits that tsunami splash, it's not a wrestling move, it's a seismic event. Grown men have been stretchered out after just one. Seth Rollins took multiple. Let that sink in. Each one driving the air from his lungs, compressing his ribcage, potentially causing internal damage that might take weeks or months to heal. And Reed didn't stop. He wasn't satisfied with one. He wasn't satisfied with two. He kept going until security, referees, and backstage personnel flooded the ring to pull him off. But here's what makes this truly sinister. Paul Heyman wasn't just watching. He was orchestrating. Reports from backstage say he was the one who coordinated the entire assault. He was the one who gave the green light. He was the one who told these two monsters exactly when to strike and exactly how far to go. And when it was over, when Seth Rollins was lying in a broken heap, gasping for air, possibly suffering from broken ribs or worse, Paul Heyman stood at the top of the ramp with that signature smirk on his face. Not a smile. A smirk. The look of a man who just executed his plan to perfection. This changes everything about the Monday Night Raw landscape. For months, we've been watching individual storylines, separate feuds, different paths. But now we're seeing the formation of something bigger. Paul Heyman is building an army. He's not just managing one client anymore. He's creating a faction of unstoppable forces, and he's using them to systematically dismantle anyone who could stand in their way. Bron Breakker brings the technical prowess and raw athleticism. Bronson Reed brings the unbridled aggression and devastating power. Together, under Heyman's guidance, they're not just a tag team, they're a wrecking crew. And Seth Rollins? He's just the first target. Think about everyone else on the roster right now. Cody Rhodes, sitting at the top with the championship, has to be watching this footage with genuine concern. Gunther, the ring general himself, has to be calculating his next moves differently now. Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, whoever steps up next, they all just watched what happens when Paul Heyman decides you're in his way. This wasn't a warning shot. This was a public execution designed to send a message to the entire locker room: fall in line or get destroyed. The brutality of the attack cannot be overstated. We've seen beatdowns before. We've seen post-match assaults, sneak attacks, weapons being used. But this was prolonged, calculated violence. Breakker hit the devastating spear that's become his signature, the same move that's ended matches in seconds, the same move that's left opponents gasping and clutching their midsections. But instead of being the finishing blow, it was just the opening salvo. Reed followed up with splash after splash after splash, using his entire body weight as a weapon, turning the wrestling ring into a scene that looked more like a crime scene than a sporting event. Medical personnel rushed to Seth's aid immediately after the attack ended. He couldn't stand on his own. He could barely breathe. The gasps, the way he clutched his ribs, the genuine pain etched across his face that wasn't selling, that wasn't entertainment, that was real physical trauma being inflicted for the world to see. And that's what makes Paul Heyman's involvement so chilling. He knew exactly what he was unleashing. He knew the damage these two men could cause, and he gave them permission to do it anyway. Now let's talk about the implications for WWE's immediate future. Seth Rollins was scheduled for multiple high-profile matches. He was in the mix for championship opportunities. He was carrying feuds, building storylines, mentoring younger talent. What happens now? Does he take time off to heal? Does he come back seeking revenge? And if he does, how can he possibly stand up to not just one, but two absolute monsters who've already proven they can break him? The questions multiply, and each one makes the storyline more compelling. But there's another layer here that's absolutely fascinating. Paul Heyman has always been about legitimacy. He doesn't align himself with just anyone. When he chose Brock Lesnar, it was because Brock was an unbeatable beast. When he stayed with Roman Reigns through his entire Tribal Chief run, it was because Roman was undeniable. Now he's chosen Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed. What does that tell us? It tells us that in Paul Heyman's mind, these two men represent the future of dominance in WWE. They're not projects. They're not developmental talents being given a push. They're fully formed weapons of mass destruction being deployed at exactly the right time. The timing couldn't be more perfect either. WWE is heading toward its biggest events of the year. WrestleMania season is approaching. Royal Rumble is on the horizon. This is when storylines need to hit their peak intensity, when moments need to be created that fans will remember for years. And what's more memorable than watching two unstoppable forces, guided by the most brilliant mind in wrestling, declare war on the entire roster by destroying one of its biggest stars? Social media exploded after this attack. Fans couldn't believe what they were watching. Trending topics lit up across every platform. Everyone had an opinion, everyone had a reaction, and that's exactly what WWE and Paul Heyman wanted. In an era where attention spans are shorter than ever, where fans can watch hundreds of different wrestling products, creating moments that force people to pay attention is absolutely crucial. This attack did that. It made people stop scrolling, start watching, and desperately want to know what happens next. Seth Rollins has built his career on resilience. He's come back from a career-threatening knee injury that should have ended him. He's rebuilt himself physically and mentally multiple times. He's evolved his character from the cocky architect to the fighting champion to the veteran warrior we see today. If anyone can survive this and come back stronger, it's Seth. But that's the genius of the storytelling here. We genuinely don't know if even Seth Rollins, with all his heart and determination, can overcome this. Paul Heyman has created real doubt, real stakes, real consequences. And let's talk about Bron Breakker's positioning in all this. He's been on the main roster for a relatively short time, but he's already making waves that veterans twice his age would kill for. Aligning with Paul Heyman instantly elevates him from rising star to main event player. It tells the audience that WWE management, the creative team, and the wrestling world's greatest mind all see something special in him. It's a coronation disguised as an attack. By destroying Seth Rollins, Bron Breakker just announced he's ready for the absolute top level of competition. Bronson Reed's role is equally important but different. He's the enforcer, the muscle, the natural disaster that Heyman can unleash whenever someone needs to be eliminated. Reed doesn't need to talk, his actions speak volumes. Every tsunami splash is a sentence in the story Heyman is writing, and that story is about power, control, and the inevitability of his client's dominance. Reed is the exclamation point at the end of every warning, the consequence for anyone who thinks they can stand against what Heyman is building. The question now becomes, who's next? Because make no mistake, this isn't over. Paul Heyman doesn't stop at one victim. He's systematic, methodical, and always thinking 3 steps ahead. If Seth Rollins was the opening statement, who's the second chapter? Who else needs to be removed from the equation? Every single wrestler on Monday Night Raw has to be looking over their shoulder now, wondering if they're next on the list, wondering if they'll be the next body left broken in the center of the ring. We're witnessing the birth of something truly dangerous in WWE. This isn't just another stable, another group of guys teaming up for convenience. This is Paul Heyman doing what he does best, identifying the most dangerous talents available and molding them into champions, into conquerors, into legends. He did it with Brock. He did it with Roman. And now he's doing it with Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed. The formula works, and he knows it works, and he's executing it with surgical precision. For Seth Rollins, this might be the defining challenge of his entire career. Not winning championships, not main eventing WrestleMania, but surviving and overcoming an attack orchestrated by the most brilliant tactician in the business and executed by 2 of the most physically imposing competitors on the planet. If he can come back from this, if he can somehow get revenge, it will cement his legacy as one of the toughest, most resilient performers in wrestling history. The chaos that erupted on Monday Night Raw wasn't just entertainment, it was a declaration of war. Paul Heyman has thrown down the gauntlet to the entire roster. He's shown what happens to anyone who stands in his way. And he's proven once again that when it comes to creating moments that matter, moments that fans can't stop talking about, moments that change the entire trajectory of a company, nobody does it better than the special counsel himself. This is just the beginning. The fury has been unleashed, the monsters have been awakened, and the architect has been broken. What comes next will define Monday Night Raw for months to come. The question isn't if there will be more chaos, it's when, where, and who will be the next victim of Paul Heyman's master plan. One thing is absolutely certain: nobody is safe, everyone is a target, and the landscape of WWE will never be the same.